All right, so welcome to our It's Game Day cooking class. Tonight we have four different recipes for you. And so we're going to get started with Michelle. So, Michelle, let me find you and turn you on.
And I am going to share a queso dip with you tonight using the Stat Cooker. So on our Stat Cooker, you have a 3/4 quart, and then you have a 1 3/4 quart, which I have the cheese in right now. Then you have a colander, I have my ground beef in, and then you have a 3/4 quart. So you can make a full meal in the Stat Cooker. You would put your side dish down here, potatoes or pasta or something, and then you would put your main dish in the middle one. So you could do chicken or salmon or any kind of things that you like. And then your dessert, you can go on top because it can sit right on top like that, and you can make a dessert. This one also doubles as a lid for when you're cooking. So tonight I'm going to start off with my ground beef, and I'm going to cook it in the microwave. I'm going to do it about 3 minutes and stir it and see how much longer. For when you're cooking meat in the microwave, it usually is about 4.5 to 5 minutes per pound. So I'm going to start off first. I have my ground beef in here, and I have a little bit of our Southwest Chipotle seasoning, and we have the recipe for that, so we can share that with you. And I'll sprinkle a little bit of it on, and then I'm going to cook this, and then I'll add more of our Southwest Chipotle seasoning. So that's what I'm going to get started with, and then I'll finish the dip after our hamburger is cooked.
All right, thank you. So now I am going to start one of my recipes, and I actually kind of started this um, at our earlier class. And so I'm going to be making an Asian flavored popcorn. And so I need to make another batch of popcorn. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with our Wow Pop popcorn popper. This is made out of silicone. What I love about this is the fact that it completely collapses for storage purposes. So imagine how much space that you'll save with this. This is perfect for not just your regular homes, but RVs and people that live in dorms or small apartments as well. And so all you got to do is remove the cover and then pop it just like that. Oops. And it will totally expand it. Now, in the very base, there's a glass disc. That is our little secret piece because that is what's going to help get the popcorn cooking. That's what's going to help make that hot. So, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put 3 tablespoons of popcorn. So, the recipe that I need to make is calls for 6 quarts of popcorn. So, just as a rule of thumb, 1 tablespoon of popcorn makes 1 quart. So, I've already made a batch, and so this is my second batch. So, I'm just going to put this little cover on. I'm going to put this into the microwave. Now, you'll notice that it's got little tiny holes here. And so, I'm going to show you what that's for when I bring out the popcorn. So, we're going to put it in for about 3 minutes. Now, every microwave is different, depends on your voltage of your microwave, your wattage, I'm sorry. And so here's what you want to do. You want to, the very first time you use this, you want to put your popcorn in for 3 minutes and you want to stand right by the microwave and you want to listen to when the popping stops. And when you hear that there hasn't been a pop in like say 5 to 7 seconds, then you know that it's done and it's time to take it out. Look at the clock and that will tell you how much time is still left of your 3 minutes. And then you know that's the cooking time in your microwave for that amount of popcorn. So it's foolproof. So you'll hear it. It's just now starting to pop. And so once it comes out, we're going to add that to my big Max Jumbo Bowl. Look at that. Isn't that amazing? 42 cups. So we'll come back to this in just a few minutes. We'll add the popcorn, all the other great ingredients that go with this as well. So now we're going to go back to Michelle. So Michelle, if we can bring you back and we'll check out where you are.
We still have 1 minute to check on the hamburger.
All right. And I have about a minute and a half left to go on the popcorn.
Well, I can talk about in your stout cooker, you're going to get seals. You're going to get 2 seals. So let's say you make this dip and you have some left over. You can put the seal on. It's round, so it's airtight and liquid tight. And then you just pop it in your fridge and you've got it ready to go. So then you could pull it out and just pop it in the microwave and reheat it, right? So that makes it really nice. I love the stack cooker too because you can use the cone in the 3-quart that I have there, and you can make your meatloaf in it. You can make a cake in it. It's so versatile. You can also do a chicken. So you put the chicken on the cone in the 3-quart, and then you put one of the lids on top and you stick it in the microwave. Now, of course, it's not going to brown like it would in the oven. So you could pop it in the oven for a few minutes to brown it, or you can sprinkle some paprika on it and it gives that color to it. But it just makes like a rotisserie chicken. So your stack cooker is very versatile. And right now it's on sale for $69. So what a deal. That's almost half price. So let me check and I'll grab the hamburger real quick.
Popcorn is
Yeah.
out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the cover so that this little cutout section is matching the little cutout section that you see here. And I'm just going to do this right over here on the counter here. And what you do is you're going to shake like this. And I'm trying to get out what I call the old maid. So any unpopped popcorn would be falling out. And you'll notice that nothing came out. That's because every single bit of my popcorn popped perfectly. And so I'm going to add this to what I had previously popped. And so now I have 6 quarts of popcorn all ready for this recipe. All right, so we're going to go back to Michelle.
So I usually, when I cook, I usually use 93% lean hamburger, but tonight I got just the 80% because I wanted to show you how the stack cooker works when you cook your ground beef in it. And you always want to open the lid from to the front so that you don't burn yourself because that's hot steam. But so I'm gonna just make sure it's all done here. And this only took 4 minutes. I got a new microwave. And so it took 4 minutes for 1 pound. So you can see how I kind of just crumbled that up. But look at the stuff that's underneath. All of that stuff. So you can see all of that grease and yuck. So when you're cooking that in your skillets, that's all mixing with your hamburger. So make sure when you're doing it with the stack cooker, you never have this yucky again. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to take the hamburger and I have Velveeta cheese here all cubed up. And then I'm going to just scoop the hamburger right into here. And then I'm going to get another, this is a half a tablespoon. And did you know that our measuring spoons have 2 extra that other companies don't give you? They have the 1/8 of a teaspoon and a half of a tablespoon. So, when you have to get to, like you're trying to get to try to measure up to the half a tablespoon, or you're trying to guess what an eighth of a teaspoon is. With Tupperware, you don't have to. So I'm going to go ahead and sprinkle that in, and I'm going to do one more. And then a can. I like the petite diced tomatoes because they're smaller, but you can do it however you like it. A can of tomatoes right in there. And then we're just going to stir it up. Now, if you like jalapenos or you want to add something else to this, you can, black olives, things like that. I like just the tomatoes and cheese, and then, to dip. So now we're going to turn. You can see I just went ahead and stirred it all together. And then I'm going to put this back on, and it says 4 minutes. So we'll stick it in for 4 minutes, and we'll have our dip all ready, quick and easy.
All right. So while that's cooking, I am going to start on the next recipe. So I'm going to be making ham and cheese croissants. This is a perfect snack for game days or anything like that. I've actually made this a couple of different ways. I've actually made this just using like little Hawaiian sweet rolls, but this particular recipe calls for croissants. So I'm going to be using a regular baking sheet, and I'm going to be placing on it our silicone mat with the edge. So I love this edge because when I'm making candy, for example, I can spread it out and it doesn't run off of the mat, whereas a flat like silicone mat, sometimes that can happen. So a couple things I just want to share with you because I just think so much thought was put into this. If I catch the light just the right way, you'll notice that there's little circles. This is perfect for when you're making anything from drop cookies to meatballs and you want to space them out just perfectly. The next thing that you'll notice is along the edge here. Again, I have to just make sure the light catches it. There's little shiny little marks every so often that you can see them. Hopefully you can catch those. And that's so that if you were to make like a bar type cookie on here, you'd have a guide for cutting it. Now you never want to use a knife or a pizza cutter or anything like that. You only want to use Tupperware like plastic. A spatula would be good. I've had good success also using a little pie slicer as well. So I'm going to be using this. This is designed to be used on a rack. You can't really pick this up when you have food on it and try to put this into the oven. So you have to put it either directly on your rack by taking the rack out of your oven. But mine's a little bit hard to kind of weave into the cabinet, into the oven, or just put it on a baking sheet. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to open up this roll of croissants. And so these are just the ones that come in the jar, or not the jar, but the tube. Nothing fancy. If I can just get it started here, that would be great. I was actually going to do this a little bit ago and I started and I couldn't get it and I lost focus on that. Okay. Let me see if I can just pop it. Nope, that's not going to help. I need to get a little knife in here to get it started because it's just not starting for me. There we go. Got it. Woo! It's popped right open then. Okay, so when you open these up, they're all perforated, as you can see. So this little perforation is where you're going to divide those all up. So that's the first thing that we want to do. I'm going to drop my camera down so you can see what I'm actually doing. So we're just going to open this up and we're going to put it out rectangularly. There we go. So the next thing that we've got to do is we got to make a sauce. Okay, so I'm going to use our microwave pitcher, and inside of this, I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of butter, and then I'm going to add some Dijon mustard, about a tablespoon of Dijon mustard, and I'm going to add a little bit of salt and pepper. It says salt and pepper to taste. So that's really up to you. And if you are trying to watch your salt and pepper intake, then you can watch that. And then I'm going to add some green onion. Put that all in. And I'm going to put this into the microwave for only about 15 seconds. My butter is really pretty soft already. So I really don't need it to cook a really long time. I'm going to put a cover on top of this so it doesn't splatter all over in the microwave. So 15 seconds. Whoops. We'll do it fine. Okay, while that's doing that, I'm going to go with my next step. And I've got a tablespoon of water. I just pre-measured that. And I'm going to put that into another bowl. And I'm actually going to get that out. Okay. This is all melted. That butter's been sitting out for a little while, so it was pretty soft and easy to do as well. Okay, back to what I did with that water. So the water is in the bowl. And the next thing that I'm going to do is I am going to crack an egg in my egg separator. Let you kind of watch that. So it sits right on the side of the bowl. And I'm going to crack this egg. The yolk, as you can see, is sitting in the center of my little egg separator. If you let your eggs set out a while and get a little less cold, you'll notice that it was a lot easier to pull that off. And then I'm going to just stick this egg yolk right back in the container that I had the water in. And the reason I'm going to do that is because this will fit perfectly into my egg container. And so when I'm ready to wipe off my hands, when I'm ready to make scrambled eggs or something, I can just throw that egg yolk in. So now we'll just kind of whisk that together. So that's just that tablespoon of water and that egg yolk. Okay. All righty. Now back to my yumminess that I have going on here. Let me throw all my little goodies here. So we're going to take a pastry brush. Now, this is from Tupperware, but we don't have it in our line right now. But if you like this, you'll notice that it literally collapses so that the silicone brush is in the inside. And then when you're ready to use it, you are just going to flip it out. It also pops completely out, so it's really super easy to clean. So I love that part. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to brush this with this yummy butter, salt and pepper, green onion mixture that we had made up earlier. I want to get seasoning on all of it. All right. How's that look? Anybody's mouth watering yet? Mine is. Okay. Got a nice coating all over. All right. Now that I've done that, I'm going to go ahead and cut these along the perforation so that I can get to
Can, can you tip the camera down,
I
please?
sure can. Thank you. All righty. And now what we're going to do is we're going to take ham and I'm just going to kind of lay it on here and I'm going to take a half a piece of cheese and stick it inside of that ham, just like that. You can actually put more than one piece of ham if you want to. I'm only going to use one piece of cheese though. All right, so I think I might just put another piece right on top of this one. So this is just regular deli ham. Yep, I did not count out enough pieces of cheese. I'm going to have to grab some more modern math. Give me just a second. And grab out 2 more pieces of cheese. So this is provolone. You could use Swiss, which I've done before, and it's really good, but I happen to have provolone on hand. You could use cheddar. That would probably be pretty yummy as well. Oh my word, I cannot get into this. This is childproof, you guys. All right. So I need 1 more piece of cheese to go with my ham. All of that for 1 piece of cheese. That's funny. All right, and then what we're going to do is we're going to roll these guys up just like you would a regular croissant. So you start at the wide section right here, and we're just going to roll it like that. So the wide section, and then go to the point. And you'll notice I'm kind of putting the pointed side down. All right. And then the last step is I'm going to take that egg white and water mixture, and I'm just going to lightly brush the tops of these. And then we'll pop them into the oven. Okay. So I'm just going to use the same brush that I had going before. Just brush that egg white and water mixture over the top. And then we're going to put them in the oven. I've got it at 350 degrees, and we're going to bake these for about 15 to 18 minutes. What do you think? Does it look like something that you would want to make? Say yes.
Yes.
Okay. So in oven they go. All right. So next up, we're gonna finish our popcorn up, and then we'll go into our last recipe. Okay. So our popcorn is all popped. So we have 6 quarts of popcorn. And so I've got all my ingredients. One of the things that I do, you'll notice, is each of my cooking classes, I always just pre-measure and sort all of my ingredients, and I put it on a tray so that I've got it all in one place. Especially when I'm doing more than one recipe, it makes it so much easier to be able to keep track of what goes with what. Otherwise, you kind of get a little confused. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing. We're going to put this butter. This is a half of cup of butter. We're going to put this into the microwave again. I'm going to put the cover on top. I've used the larger container to hold the butter, the smaller one. So that's a 1 cup and a 2 cup pitcher. They each act as a measuring cup, and they are made out of Tuppertherm. So they're very heat resistant, and you can put high fat foods or things like butter in it without having to worry. So what we're going to do with that is we're going to add some yummy ingredients. Now remember, this is what we call Asian popcorn. So our ingredients might be a little bit different than what you're used to enjoying. So let's see if that's done in 30 seconds. Pretty much, yeah. It's amazing what happens with 30 seconds in the popcorn popper. Isn't that amazing? Okay, so I'm going to use my That's a Bowl right here. I think that'll make it easy for you to be able to see everything. So you see what I'm adding. Okay, so we're going to add, that was a half a cup of butter. We're going to add a teaspoon of sesame oil. So just in case you don't know this, once you open your sesame oil, it always needs to be refrigerated. Okay, so we've got our sesame oil, and then we also are going to put in a teaspoon of soy sauce. Let's see. All right, next we need a half a teaspoon of powdered ginger. So you don't want to use regular ginger. Powder is going to dissolve better in this mixture. So you'll notice that I have this in my spice shakers. I love these because we travel a lot. We're not always home, but I can come back and all my seasonings are always perfect. Okay, next we are going to need, what's my next ingredient? I've got sesame oil, soy sauce, and ginger. I think that was it. All right. So we are going to, I'm looking because I had another recipe, another ingredient for something else somewhere. And I'm like, did I leave that out? I did. I left the honey out of the other recipe. Shame on me. It's supposed to have honey in there. I'm like, what's the honey for? It was not on the tray, you guys. Isn't that terrible? Okay, so we've mixed this all together. And what you're going to do is we're going to drizzle this sauce over our popcorn. Here we go. And you could use a spatula, but here's the part I like the most is you can put the seal on, you can puff the air out of it. Now you've got a nice airtight container, and you can just shake this up and that will tell you comfort. But we're not done. All right. Next up, we have got to add some of the crunchies. So we're going to put a cup of, this is called Arari. This is a Japanese treat. It's kind of soy saucy based. Okay, so there's a cup of that. Might well put the rest of the package in there. It doesn't make sense to save that teeny a little bit, right? And the next thing, oh my gosh, I love these. We had to go to 2 stores to get these because we didn't have them at the first store, and they are a must. Okay, so take a look at what this is. These are wasabi peas, you guys, super, super yummy. And one of my favorite snacks. Yes, they have a little kick to them. So we're going to put a cup of these wasabi peas in here as well. We're not going to use the rest of those. What a mess that would be, right? You'd be like, hot, hot stuff. And then we're going to put a cup of honey roasted peanuts. Now, this stuff is sold here on island by a popcorn company that charges, like, seriously, an arm and a leg for this. Now, some of those ingredients weren't cheap, but nowhere near what you would pay to have them pop the popcorn, because that part's cheap, right? All right. So now what we have, I'm going to kind of scoop this up so you can see. It's popcorn with all of that yummy stuff mixed in here together. And I'm going to tell you, it is like an explosion in your mouth. It's absolutely delicious. You will love it. I'd like to tell you that putting it in this bowl is going to keep it fresh all week, and it would, but it won't last that long. So it really does not matter, right? But it's great to have that airtight bowl so that you don't have to worry about anything spilling when you're shaking. Shake, rattle, and roll. Okay, let's put this up.
Our dip is ready, Tina.
All right, let's go back to Michelle.
Put my camera down a little. And then, of course, always lift away from you. But look, it's so yummy. And there you've got just a good hamburger queso dip. You can do sausage in it, whatever you like best, but it's going to be, see, so yummy.
Looks
So
delicious.
that's easy way to make it for game day.
All righty. So our next recipe is pretty doggone awesome. I'm pretty excited about this. But before I go into that, I just want to take a minute and talk a little bit about our game day specials that we have. So this was really our inspiration for all of the recipes that we're making. So we've got the Wow Pop, and of course our serving center is fabulous for chips and dip, or you can use it for vegetables. And we also have our chip and dip set. Our season serve is great if you're marinating those wings. You've seen the silicone baking sheet and the That's a Mega Bowl and the stack cooker in action. We also have our microwave plates. These are great instead of using paper plates at your get together. And of course, we've also got the tongs for using for serving, bring whatever it is that you happen to be serving. Okay, and then let's see. Oh, excuse me. So the Squeeze It bottle is this little guy, and this is great for any like homemade mayonnaises that you might want to use. So it's really cool because it's a squeezy bottle. It's very, very flexible, but it's got a little silicone cap in here with just a little teeny tiny hole. And what I love about this is I make spicy mustard or spicy mayonnaise, and I just take regular mayonnaise and I add sriracha sauce to it and mix it all up and put it inside of here, and it is great. You can squirt it on everything. And that's something that we use a lot in Asian cooking, especially as well. You can use it as a garnish. If you've ever seen plates, you could put some chocolate sauce in that and squirt it all over the plate. So, if you want to get really fancy, that's really awesome. Here's those fun plates. These come in two different, well, they come as a set with two purple and two of the beautiful blue. So, but they're so practical instead of those paper plates. Okay, the next item that we're going to feature tonight is this guy right here. And this is our, I call it the party mold. It's called the gel party mold. And it is what I call a super size gel ring. So obviously you could make jello in here. You could form a rice ring in here. You could form a meatloaf in here. You would not obviously bake it in here, but it's a pretty cool item that we have. So let me get rid of that background here. All right, so what we're going to do tonight is we're going to make a dip in this. And it's a layered dip, so you're all pretty familiar with layered dips. So this is going to be kind of fun. So it's called layered fiesta dips. I'm going to yank my recipe up here real quick, just so I don't make a mistake and leave something out like I did on the other one. All right, so this is obviously the top, but when you're making your gel rings, you always use it upside down, and this becomes your cover. So you're going to use this as your cover, and then once you're ready to serve it, you actually would flip it upside down, and you'd open up use this tab and open this up, and once you do that, it kind of goes whoop and kind of drops right down onto that serving plate. All right, so let's crank this little guy down and we'll show you what we're going to do. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to just lightly grease this. I've got just a little bit of Wesson oil. So I don't really want to coat this with a ton of oil. That's why I just put it in a container and use a paper towel, because if you pour it in, you might end up going a little overboard, but you want this particular dip. Now, you don't need to do this when you're making Jello, but when you're doing something like if you were molding a meatloaf, for example, or this particular dip, yes, you want to give it a little coat like this. So I used just a tiny bit of that. Once I got it in here, I was able to kind of spread it around pretty well. And you can tell whether you've got it spread all over because it's kind of slippery. I'm going to get a little bit more on this side here. Okay. All right, next up is we are going to start by combining some scallions with our shredded cheese. So I've got cheese already shredded. I shredded it ahead of time using our awesome little um, shredding machine. Look, my brain's dead. Can't even think what it's called. So we're going to mix that up. And then what we're going to do is we're going to put that in as our first layer. So can remember now we're going to actually flip this upside down. So this scallion and cheese is going to end up being the top when we are ready to fill this out. So this was about 2 cups of cheese and the scallion. So you want to make sure it's even so that you've got some all over and that you don't have any big holes because you don't want holes on your final thing. So I'm just going to kind of press that down a little bit. Okay, so our next ingredient is diced tomatoes. And so I've already opened this can and drained the juice off of it. But I will tell you, just because they sat here for about 15 or 20 minutes, I can tell that there's still some more juice. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of squeeze them out as I plop this in here into the 4 corners, and then I'll worry about spraying it all out. So you want the large can of diced tomatoes. Now, you could also use Rotel. I actually think that that probably would have been a better choice, but because I like things spicy. But if you don't like things spicy, then you wouldn't want to do that, right? All right. Almost getting to the bottom of this. I love this mold because it truly, look at all the juice that was in there, and I had already literally drained this. Okay. So I love this because it takes something normal and it just makes it look so doggone fancy. That's the coolest thing. I mean, this is not a big fancy thing. This is just a layered Mexican dip for the most part, right? But look how fancy it's going to come out. So kind of push those down inside of there. Okay. All right. Next thing we're going to do is we are going to do. Okay, next is our guacamole. Again, I'm just trying to keep reading so I make sure I don't miss anything. So I actually made this guacamole, but you could buy a container of guacamole. So my recipe is a little bit different than most. I got this from one of my customers. I went to her party, and this is so many years ago. I mean, this is like 20 years ago. But I went to her party and she had this guacamole as a refreshment. Good thing I wasn't making guacamole at her party that night because hers was a whole lot better. And it was like the best guacamole I had ever had. And so I asked her if I could have the recipe, and she said yes. So, but then she didn't give it to me. So then months later, I was doing something that I wanted to make guacamole, and I called her and I said, remember that yummy? She kind of told me what the ingredients were, but she didn't really write it down. You know how those kind of cooks are. My mom was like that. She said, I don't know how much anything is. I never measure a thing. Okay. So now we've got the layer of guacamole. Anyway, she did give me the recipe. All right. So now I've got cream cheese, and I am going to, with the cream cheese, add some sour cream. Okay. So I need a cup of sour cream. So go get my cheese out of there. I've like used every single measuring cup and measuring spoon in my house today between the 2 cooking classes. All right. So we've got half a cup. And we'll put another half a cup in there. Now, I will tell you the last ingredient, I'm not going to put as much in as the recipe calls for because it's not my favorite. And I just felt like it wasn't going to make that big of a difference. Let's see, I think I need a little bit more sour sweetening there. And kill the sour cream container. There we go. All right. So I'm going to mix together the sour cream and the cream cheese. And once I get it mixed up pretty well, we're going to add some taco seasoning to it. You could use our Southwest Chipotle if you have that recipe. If not, ask your consultant for it. You could also just add some cumin to this. That's one of my favorite. But in this case, we are going to put a tablespoon of taco seasoning right out of a package. Nothing like making it super easy. Okay. Almost have it thoroughly mixed. And we're going to spread that on top of that guacamole that we had. All right, so I'm just going to put like a dollop in every corner. And then a little bit along the sides and go about spreading it so that there's some everywhere. So, is it sounding yummy yet? Does it sound like something you'd want to make and eat?
Yummy, yes.
Mhm. And again, you could make this in a 9 by 13 for sure. It just isn't going to look as cool as when you make it in the gel party. And that's what the gel party is all about. It's about helping you make things look more festive. And so here's a fairly simple recipe that many people have made in a 9 by 13 pan. And just by changing the container, it's going to make such a big difference. And now's the time to grab it because it's on sale, right? It's my favorite 4-letter word. Sale. Okay. Okay. Now I know you're all wondering what's the last ingredient that you really don't like? Refried beans. So it actually calls for 2 cans, and I'm only going to use 1 can. But what I am going to do is I'm going to take it out of the can because it needs some help. I guess I could have heated it up. That would have made it a little bit easier to spread for sure. Um, but let's face it, these are ready to eat right out of the can. So one of the things I love about this spatula, because we have 2 different spatulas, is this one is really designed to fit inside of soup cans much better. So if you've got a bigger can, that's fine, but this is much better for a soup can. All right, so we'll just kind of mush that up a little bit. And again, you could heat it up if you want to. So again, I'm just going to put like a dollop, and this is not going to go as far since I only used 1 can instead of 2, but personal preference here. It's going to be a very thin layer. Alrighty. And then again, we're just gonna spread that around as best as we can, making a final layer. You know, I have had refried beans at a restaurant, of course, and I did like them, but I think what happens with those is they add a lot of yummies to it. So, like one time I did make these at home and it tasted a whole lot better. I heated them up and I added cumin to it, which, again, I love cumin. It's one of my favorite spices. So it just made it a whole lot better. Okay, so now here it is. We're going to put the cover on here, which is going to become our serving piece as well. Okay. Oops, this way. And we're going to put it in the refrigerator for 8 hours or overnight. And then what happens is when you unmold it, see how pretty it's going to look? I don't really want to do, oh gosh, I kind of messed it up, didn't I? No, it's okay. See how pretty it is on the bottom? That's what it's going to look like when you flip it out. And then you just turn it upside down and you lift open that center tab and it just pops right down on this little container here. But I didn't mess it up doing that. I think it's fine. So that is your layered fiesta dip. Okay. So that, I got to check and see how we're doing. I hear my timer go off. I'm looking at my thing and it's showing no time left on the oven. So hopefully we haven't burned these little puppies. Oh, they look pretty good. All right. So take a look at how pretty those little guys are. Pretty yummy, huh?
That looks yummy.
I know, right?
Mm-hmm.
Looks pretty delicious. So tonight for dinner, I think we're having popcorn and ham croissants, I believe is what we're gonna have for dinner. Because I'm gonna obviously save the dip for a little bit later. But how yummy is that? All right. That's a wrap, everybody. Thank you so much for being here tonight. I hope you enjoyed it. Hope you got some ideas on new recipes, new products. Maybe that gel party was something you've not really ever looked at before. And now you know all about it and why you have to have it in your kitchen, right? Have a great night, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.